Little Legends Podcast is a Prediction Esports production. Support us by subscribing to the Prediction Esports Podcast channel on your favorite podcast provider. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Little Legends Podcast. I'm your host, the Blevins. Joining me, as always, is Boop. How's it going, man?
It's going good. I'm rocking my dad sweater, right? You know, almost 30. Got to start repping it, right? You got to lean into it.
That tan, brown, nondescript jacket.
Yep. And you can't see it, but I'm definitely wearing socks with sandals right now. Maybe I'll say a dad joke here or two.
Joining me, not next week or ever again, Boop.
All right, you ready for one of my favorite dad jokes?
Yes, I am.
Okay, what did the mother buffalo say to the son buffalo when he went to college?
I don't know. What did he say? Or what did she say?
Bye, son. Get it? Because bison. Okay,
on his last episode ever, Boop!
How did the zombie marathon end?
I don't know, Boop. How did the zombie marathon end?
Dead even.
All
right, last one, because I like groups of three.
Okay, the rule of threes, I got to allow it.
All right, when's the best time to go to the dentist?
I don't know. When's the best time to go to the dentist?
2:30.
This will also be my last episode as well, folks. I don't know if I'm going to be around.
I just died.
Oh,
Not
boy.
even a chuckle, huh? I thought 2:30 would get you.
No, I knew where they were all going. I've heard them all before. That's the beauty of the dad joke.
Okay. Here's one you haven't heard.
Okay,
all right?
let's hear it.
Okay. We're going to do a knock-knock joke. You start.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
I don't know. I don't know where this is going. I have no idea where this is going, but I do know where this episode at least was going. It was on the topic of patch 9.20, which the notes of which have been released mere hours ago, and the patch is actually live on Oceania or Oceanic. I think Oceania. OCE server. I don't know what that actually is. Too smooth brain to check. So we're going to be
not taking you to trivia. That's
I
not
only,
a geography person.
Unless it's Simpsons trivia, I will fail horribly at it. But we are going to be. But one thing I wouldn't fail horribly at is talking about these 9.20 patch 9.20 patch notes, which we will be talking about in just a bit here. Of course, want to go over a little bit of housekeeping. The first order of news here is that we got a brand spanking new iTunes review from none other than great community member Angry Frog, and this one was pretty funny. Angry Frog titled the review, "Great TFT podcast. Blevins and Boop are a great duo." Aw, thanks, man. Every time I listen, I come away with a better understanding of some mechanic in the game and a few new ideas for comps, itemization, and new synergies. Really like the Mort retort, and in parentheses, Blevins, there should be no consorting with Mort, even if there are two large rods involved.
Nice.
Maybe I should have proofread this before reading it on air, and be able to stay up to date on the news about the game. Great show, and look forward to what comes next. Thanks, guys, from Angry Frog 48. Thanks, Angry Frog. I know you were in the chat earlier, and you've messaged us a few times on Discord, and we're actually at game night last week. So huge shout outs to you, Angry Frog, for that. And as a reminder, everyone, all the iTunes reviews are greatly appreciated and, in fact, very much needed for us, both on the prediction feed and on the normal feed. Whichever you listen to, I do suggest you go over to the prediction feed regardless and subscribe there. Leave a review on One or both. We Beddits was kind enough
Bend
to
it like
leave a review.
Beddits.
Yeah, bend it like Beddits. Be like Beddits. Left a review on both. The iTunes reviews are absolutely imperative for us in order to grow the show and continue doing that. So huge shout outs and thank yous there. And as I mentioned, Angry Frog did come to our game night, which are normally on Friday evenings Eastern time. Unfortunately, we have some folks in Australia, which it's more like Saturday morning for them. But Friday evenings Eastern time. Go to discord.me/Little Legends Podcast. All of the details are there, and the Discord's just been bumping. We've been talking about all sorts of stuff. We even had some world news stuff going on today. We've got all sorts of conversations from mostly focused on TFT, but we've got everything that you could ever want. Come on in and join the Discord. But as we move on, we will talk about our weeks in TFT. Boop, how was it?
It sucked, man.
Grind?
My week of TFT sucked. Oh man, I dropped from Plat 2 to Plat 4 again.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then I don't know why I keep forcing Rangers, man. It just like ain't working for me. And then yeah, it just sucked, man. And then I played all day, not really all day. I played a couple games today and a couple games yesterday. Got fourth in like every one of them. So for like, I mean, like for like 4 hours of work, getting like 5, 10, 15, 20, like 20 LPs. I guess it's not terrible.
It's better than the 40 that I lost for 6 hours of work.
I was talking to Sphinx earlier, and he was like, "Yeah, I lost about 300 LP," and I was like, "What's that like?" To like
having that much LP.
Yeah, exactly. What's that like having 300 LP to lose and still be challenger? You know what I mean? I would love to be there one day. Have you ever been like a challenger in any game, like in the top like 0.1%?
I don't know what Hearthstone Legend. I don't know what you would have to what rank.
Oh, I would count that. I would count Legend.
Oh yeah, I've been.
Yeah,
I've been Legend for sure.
I haven't. Rank 4 was the highest I ever got in Hearthstone. I got pretty high in Heroes of the Storm, but I've been like a Plat Diamond player in most everything I've ever done. You know, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I got top 32 at a Grand Prix in Magic out of like 1,400 players. I don't know what that puts me at, but that was just one tournament, so that doesn't really count. And it was a team tournament, so it really doesn't count. But and that because it was a team tournament, we didn't even get prizes or pro points, so it really doesn't count. But it get it. It did happen.
I got a gold medal because I cried at a Taekwondo tournament once.
And that's what's wrong with our... I mean...
Yeah, I wasn't even like 4. I was like 15 or like 16.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually told this on another podcast, but I love telling this story. Basically, like, I like being fancy, right? My big problem with a lot of things is I don't like doing what other people are doing, right? Like for like in simplest
Hence
terms,
why you're playing Rangers in 9.19.
Exactly. Like I don't like ordering the same thing at a restaurant as someone else. I'm one of those people. And so I was at this Taekwondo tournament, and I was probably like a pretty good spar. Like during our like scrims and stuff, I was doing quite well at my Taekwondo studio. But then at the thing, they told us that if you're in the air and make contact, you would get more points. And so what I did was I made everything in the air. And so I never made contact, but I thought I was like doing well. Like I couldn't like see how I had lost. And so like I had lost against these 2 kids who were like way younger than me. And so I got last place, and then I just started crying. And they took the bronze medal off of my chest and put a gold one on. Because a 16-year-old cried at a Taekwondo contest. And then I never went back to Taekwondo again. That was the last time I ever did it.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack from that, Boop. I don't know if we have enough time on this episode to go into that.
I'm a changed person now. That probably, I mean, at least within the last month, that probably wouldn't have happened. I'm just kidding. No. I'm
just kidding. It absolutely would still happen.
Yeah. No. I've calmed down a lot in my old age, as we both are boomers.
Yep. We are esports boomer. I got called a boomer. I got called, no joke, a boomer at the Overwatch League Grand Finals last weekend. It happened. Being 29 in a bar full of 21-year-olds makes you the boomer.
Yep, I was actually at a LAN and I was like, "Hey, let's all go drinking after." And I was like, "Wait, like a bunch of these kids are not 21, Chris. You can't just assume like that.
Right.
Can't just assume. You're the old one."
Hey, you know what I did? I just assumed everyone was 21 and they can make their own decisions in the bar. It's at the bar's discretion. But as far as I know, everyone was 21. Definitely. Okay, I'm not going to incriminate myself on camera any more than I already have. And
You can tell it's a light week. You can tell it's a light week
yeah,
in TFT.
when we've already gone on not one, not two, but 3 tangents before talking about that.
Yep. All we've done is read a review. So
it's true.
Okay, we got this. We got this.
Okay,
Let's keep going.
back a little bit on TFT. My week was similar. I lost probably 40 or 50 LP total. Actually, maybe more. Some between 40 and 60 LP total. I started at Diamond 4. I finally have shifted off of my Smurf account and was playing on my actual King K Blev account. Feel free to add me on League as well if you'd like. I'm talking to you, Boop. Please accept my friend request. I'm kidding. We're already friends on League. I finally went back to that, and I actually the first couple games, I think the first 2 games, I got second in both, and actually promoted back up to Diamond 3, and then it was just like a slow descent into like losing. It's like a 7th, an 8th, a 6th, a 7th, a 6th, a 6th, and I just was like the rage run back of like, well, it's like 12, it's like midnight. I should really go to my queue popped. Okay, let's do another one. Get a 6th. So last night I was at 0 LP and I'm like, you know what? New set 2's coming up. They're probably doing a reset of something. I don't even care. I'll go back down to plat. They can't take away that screenshot of me getting into diamond. That can never be taken away from me. That can't be scrubbed off of the internet. So I'm like, screw it. I don't care if I lose. I'm just gonna play another one because I don't want to be at 0. No matter what, I don't want to be at Diamond 4 0 LP. So win or lose, I'm gonna be at something that's not that. Okay. So I get 6th. I'm like, well, guess I'm back in plat. Thing pops up, -0.
Hey,
So-
sometimes the world does work out.
Sometimes the world does work out, except my explicit goal was to not be at Diamond 4 0 LP. And the game was like, you know what? Even though it's not actually possible, we're going to make an exception here. You lose nothing. So the good news is that the game apparently doesn't want me to be plat. The bad news is that the game can read my mind and will screw me over in creative ways no matter what.
Well, you can still participate in Heroes Hearth then at Diamond.
Yeah, it is true. I sure can. Which is a great segue. This is why you're the professional, Poop. As we move into our news recap, and as Boop mentioned, Heroes Hearth tournament is coming back. We're going to be having the next fight night. It's actually going to be on Thursday. So normally we'd be talking about the results of the fight night because they were on Mondays. They are shifting to Thursdays, and I'm going to be casting this again as well. Alongside my other podcast co-host, Deathblow, who many of you may know in the Discord as Glenn Coco. And if you are familiar with High Noon Podcast, which is my Overwatch podcast, you'll of course know Deathblow. We go way, way back for casting. We were casting Magic tournaments back in like 2012. So the band's finally getting back together. It's been a very long time. It's a long time coming for that. So make sure you guys check out the Heroes Hearth tournament at 8 Central at twitch.tv/HeroesHearth. And guys, if you are looking to play, they're looking for more players. If you're diamond or above, I mean, I would say if you're, maybe if you're even high plat, just you know what, send in the application. The worst they can say is no or not get back to you. I don't have any control over that, so I can't pick anything. But guys, if you are looking to play in these Heroes Hearth tournaments, if you're looking to dip your toes into competitive, you're definitely going to want to sign up and register there. I will put the link to sign up in the show notes here, or in the description, so you can check that out. And what's cool about this tournament, Boop, is that this is going to be the first real tournament on the new patch. It's 2 days after the new patch has come out, so not only is it the first tournament, but the players may not have had too much time to practice this, so this will be fun.
I wonder if that makes the queen a little nervous. You know what I mean? Because like I think
Right.
everyone kind of gets on a little bit more even footing, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of in the same zone. Of course, like I'm sure a lot of them are practicing on the PTR.
They're literally
PvE.
practicing as we speak. They're doing like a secret practice thing that I was actually going to try to do a practice cast for, but they're doing it now, so can't do that.
Anyway, it's actually going to be really exciting. There's some new participants, and then the top 3 from last time.
Yep.
And I have to say, like, I've been in touch with Jules ever since we casted. Like, such a cool person.
Yeah.
By the way. Yeah, and just the community is phenomenal. So if you're going to support any community that's not our community, support that one. Because
You don't have to only support one. You can support multiple. But if you're going to choose one, choose ours.
You have to support one, but you can support 2. I think it's a better way to say it.
Yes.
And if you want to support 2, Heroes Hearth is definitely a really solid second place for you to look at.
It's a far second place. No, I'm kidding. I love those guys and gals over there. Yeah, they're really great. Make sure you're checking that out. We got the announcement yesterday that I guess it's kind of like the preview of the preview announcement that the new TFT beta pass is coming with the new patch here. We're going to be getting I was really hoping for more substance in this post, but that's okay. They updated the experience a little bit. They updated some of the quests, and basically we're gonna be getting a little Legends egg, new arena chromas, which are cool. I'm assuming those are just the battlefields. Hopefully they have cool, like they do it kind of like they did before, where there's like just the color swaps, and then there's like 1 or 2 like real kind of like designed like change ones. The dragon one and whatever I don't even know what it's like called, the like Challenger Arena. No, it's not Challenger Arena. I don't know what it's called. The last.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It looks like totems or something.
Yeah, there's like the 2 faces. Yeah. I like those ones. The ones that look really. I mean, the first time I ever saw the dragon one, I was like, "Whoa, this is like."
I would
cooler.
buy. I mean, I would buy I said this last time. Like, I would buy a Battlefield for like $5.
Yeah,
for sure.
I want like an exclusive one. Like, I want
one. Look, the cool thing about like League is like they could do, because of all the lore and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I really want a Freljord arena, which is where Ash is from. So it'd be like really wintry.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, right? With like glaciers and stuff like that. I think that'd be sick.
Wait. Actual League of Legends is getting their Halloween update. Do we get a Halloween board? Ooh, now I'm
or a little excited. Legend like pumpkin person? Sorry, I gotta calm it down. It's gonna get X-rated if we keep talking.
If we keep talking about pumpkin people.
I love Halloween, man. I love Halloween, and Halloween events, like for most games, are pretty awesome, right?
It's the easiest one to do, right? Like everybody, it's just so.
Like just do like a spooky map.
Yeah, let's do.
And give it to everybody, and just have it only during Halloween, maybe, right?
Oh no, I don't like that. I want to be able to bust out my Halloween one in the middle of July and like and show off to all the people.
I do like playing my Winter Wonderland skins during the summer when I do play regular League.
Yeah. I don't want things to go away, that's for sure. But I also, I like, what they can also do, and this is really showing you how off the rails we're going here. We're talking about different variations of board skins that we can have. They can do like esports ones, like if we hear some sort of announcement about a league or something, or a tournament series or whatever,
or like whoever wins Worlds gets a board.
Yeah, that'd be cool. A Cloud9 skin or a G2 skin, or I'm trying to think of other orgs that have TFT players. TSM skin, Liquid skin. They could do cool stuff.
Q-Lash.
Like that. Yes, a Q-Lash skin. Oh man, I would snap off a Q-Lash skin.
You would spend like $50 on a Q-Lash skin. No worries.
If I could get it that cheap, I would. But yeah, so we'll be getting that probably by the time you're listening to this show, or shortly after. It will be out with 9.20. Another note here is in 1 week from the recording of this show, on the 15th of October, we're getting the Riot 10-year event. We don't have any official announcement about what exactly is going to be in that event, but just from what we've heard from Mort and some of the other posts about the event, there is likely going to be something TFT related. And from what Mort has alluded to, it's probably going to be at least a little bit exciting. Might have something to do with esports. It might have something to do with Set 2. It might have both. It could have neither. It could be something completely different. We don't know, but that means that next episode is going to be probably pretty spicy, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I hope so. What are some if you were to bet on one thing, what do you think they're like definitely going to announce?
Let's see. It's going to be October. One thing that they're definitely going to announce, I think they'll announce a date for Set 2 and show us maybe one maybe they'll preview a new synergy, like especially if there's, I mean, we're in the middle of October, right? Maybe we see some Halloween stuff. Maybe we see
there are Halloween skins. Like Nidalee has a Halloween skin.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do that. For synergies, I thought of one the other day with Kenobi. There's like an awesome skin line called Star Guardian.
Yes.
And so it's like Sailor Moon pretty much, and that would be a really cool synergy because there's enough now. There's like 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah. They could. I mean, yeah, they don't have to be like thematically in the, well, I mean, I don't know how Star Guardian like lines up in the lore of League of Legends, or if it's like an offshoot.
Well, it's the same thing as like TF isn't actually a pirate in like the real lore. He just has a pirate TF skin.
Right, and Pantheon too.
Yeah, Pantheon. I don't know where the Pantheon dragon thing really came in from, but yeah. So like they already have precedent of taking skin lines and helping to make synergy from it. So it could happen.
Yeah, that would be really cool. What do you think that they'll show?
I think they're going to show spectate mode.
Ooh, now that would be sweet.
Yeah, it's got to be big, right? I don't know. It's either going to feel like tacked on to whatever regular League of Legends is doing, right? Because regular League of Legends also has like a winter map and stuff like that. So I'm sure they'll announce some skins. I'm sure they'll announce some item changes or something like that. But for TFT, definitely like a little legend, right? A new little legend's like 100% getting announced.
A new egg.
Yeah, new egg, new battlefield probably. But like in terms of core mechanics, either spectate mode or like the first official, like we're gonna be in Seoul, South Korea next July for the TFT Summer Championships, something like that.
That would be cool. That would be
sick.
really cool. My other I guess secondary bet would be something else that we can spend money on in TFT that we can't right now. I don't know what that is. I don't even know what that could be, but I think it'll happen.
Let's figure it out. They might make us start paying for the battle passes a la Apex.
They could, or they could do what a lot of them do, which is have the free battle pass, and then if you want to like have the better one or get more stuff, you can pay. Which I'm fine with. I don't mind that method because like it's all generally cosmetics. If you don't want to pay it, that's fine. You don't need that stuff. It doesn't make your game better, or it doesn't give you an advantage. It just lets you buy more shiny stuff, which I like to do because I am an idiot. One last piece of news before we go into the break and break down 9.20 is an interesting clip that I heard someone posted on Reddit from Scarra, and I will play that clip here for your reference.
I didn't say I enjoyed Nobles. I said that the Voices meta was definitely healthier, even if there's one degenerate meta, because you could play a lot more things to get the top 4. A lot of the problem with this current meta is the fact that the pacing is really bad, because in this current meta, everyone hits level 8 or 9 every game, and it means that like you're literally forcing perfect comps almost every game. which is super bad. The entire point of this genre, in my opinion, is to you play what you're given, both item-wise and unit-wise. But you don't have to do that in the current meta because you're able to econ so hard that you can just brute force the best comps. You didn't do that last patch, actually. Last patch, you had some people forcing the best comps, but because you were dying so quickly, you're forced to improvise a lot last patch. So yeah, you had Void Sins, but you also were able to play a lot of other things to get the top 4. Because if you just high rolled the units, you can run that. You can run it all the way up. So I don't know, you know.
So this was, I think, kind of a hot take, actually. Basically, Scarra saying that this current, or I guess at the time current 9.19 patch is actually worse than the Void Assassins meta of 9.18. And I feel like I have a side that I'm falling on here. But Boop, what are your thoughts here on Scarra's sort of assessment of this current meta versus the Void Assassins
But
meta?
Boop, you answer first, so I can.
No, I actually do. I actually had like a little bit of a discussion on the Reddit thread as well. So I actually have.
Nice. I gotta start posting on Reddit. I like never post on Reddit. Okay, so this one's hard for me because I actually see both sides on this one, right? This seems to be more of a preference thing than an actual like the game is broken thing to me, right? Because I think that TFT in general, throughout all of its short history, which feels long for some reason,
yeah, it does,
right? Has been better when the games have been longer, and so and like. Econing is, I think, one of the highest level things that, like, the difference between, like, a plat and diamond player, right? We were talking to Sphinx about, like, what's the difference between challenger and diamond, and he was saying, like, oh, it's itemization was the first thing he said.
Yeah.
And I think it's the very next thing would be, like, how you spend your money, right? Because I can tell I'm not spending my money right now. That's why I'm losing, right? Because the game goes on so late that you can get to those perfect comps. So if you're not getting to those perfect comps, you're just not playing the game correctly, right? If you take these comps and do it like last time where people were dying before chickens, I remember like getting top 4s before chickens on like on the last patch. Then there's this feeling of not having been satisfied that you played a game. Right? It's like playing tic-tac-toe, but like your second move you messed up, and on the third move they win. Right? It's like, oh, okay, well that's done. I guess I'll play another one. And I lost all this LP and blah blah blah. So those are my arguments for both sides. I disagree with Scarra. I think that this meta, I like the tempo is odd. I have to say that, but I do like the game in a longer. I like the game when it's been longer. Like I think 2 or 3 patches ago when we had like Crowan on, the game was short and then went into
Very
a longer
short,
type of meta, and I liked it that way.
Yeah.
And he even mentioned that he wouldn't mind like 45-minute games, and I don't think it should be I don't think it should be that long.
Yeah.
But I do disagree in a sense like that. I agree that the tempo is very odd, and I think leveling with 70 is weird. That's something that we're going to talk about because they're changing it, but. Yeah, it's hard for me to say, but if I had to choose, I would say I disagree because I like the game longer. I like econing being super important, and it's less RNG dependent than it used to be because you can get the money to roll and find your pieces.
Yeah, I do agree that I don't think it's not cut and dry, and I think it is a stylistic choice that the design team has to make of what is the core of this game. And even in that clip, Scarra says, he says, in my opinion of what the genre is etc. I kind of agree with him though, and here's why. It does feel like you are, even though like you can econ up and get these super comps, it feels like because of that, a lot of items are not even playable at all. And a lot of comps aren't playable at all because you need to, if you want a top 4 or even top 1, like you need to have Akali 2 with 1+ IEs, or Warwick with 4 wilds and IE, a Bloodthirster, etc. You need to have like 2+ BF swords in order to top 4, and if you don't get those, then you're not going to, or you're like it's very hard to do that. And well,
isn't that a question of itemization and how the items pop rather than tempo and length of game, though?
No, yes, it's both actually, because you can't just like inting right now or purposely losing at the beginning to get a lose streak and get better item picks is a strategy right now. I would argue it's one of the better strategies in 9.19. And the thing is you can do that, but also other people are doing that because it's a good strategy, right? So you can do that and still not get these swords. So it's not even it's partly how items pop, but at that point that would make me think it's more RNG, because when the games are shorter, you can be like, okay, I didn't get my BF sword because I see that my opponents are inting, right? And they're econing up and they're just stalling, because losing, you don't get punished as much for losing, especially early. So instead of inting and trying to get the BF sword or the gloves or the bow, I'm going to instead make these 2 Luden's echoes and roll really aggressively and make a strong comp right now and punish these people who are inting or who have inted at the beginning. You know, when you finish inting and you're at like 73 health versus you are inting at the beginning and you're at 53 health, that's a pretty big difference. Once you get to this mid game where the comps are good, remember the week that the Evelyn comp was so good, like that was because that Evelyn comp didn't have to play in the super late game where we've got fully decked out Dravens and Jinxes and Rengars and Akalis. Those comps didn't exist because they would just die to these mid-game comps. And I think like having mid-game comps is good and having late-game comps is good, but right now it feels like those mid-game comps can't exist, because even if I've had so many times where I like am pretty strong in the mid-game and then I fall off and like the Draven comp comes online, and because they're taking less damage from me when I beat them in the early game, they just come back and they win, right?
So there's not enough of a consequence for going for late-game comps.
Right.
In summary,
there's no option to go the mid-game comp because it's just not good enough.
Okay, now that you're saying it, I think I've got a Hearthstone equivalent, or probably Magic too. I don't know if that's the same thing. It's kind of like when Control was really good. Like you couldn't really play aggro, right? And when aggro is really good, Control was just too slow, right? So let's talk about like Priest and Hearthstone right now, right? Because Priest is very good right now in Hearthstone. And when Priest is good, people tend to hate the game because it's like it's usually like a very long deck without a lot of counterplay, right? And so, and it usually has too many tools, right? It can survive to the late game a little too easily, just like what you're saying with these late game comps, right? Because I remember Machine Gun Priest, where like the Death Priest would come online and he'd have a wave clear, which he could like clear everyone with 5 or more attack, and basically like put a bunch of low cost spells. So all you needed to do was survive until the late game, use Shadow Priest, Anduin, and Raza the Unchained, and then just win. Right?
Exactly.
Which Void Assassins kind of felt like to me, to be completely honest, but just like a little short. That reminded me of like Zulok, right?
Right. Well,
where it's just like aggression. But something that you do bring up that makes me change my opinion a little bit more, and kind of like follow where you're saying, is the fact that like when aggro, like there has to also be an option, right? I think when Hearthstone was at its healthiest, there were like mid-range decks, like Midrange Hunter was popular with like aggro decks and a splattering of control decks.
Right.
When it was like Freeze Mage versus Freeze Mage and the game lasted like 45 minutes and it was the same kind of game every single time, that's when it does get frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely see that. So I guess I'll adjust what I'm saying to say I like the length of the game right now. I like the longer games, but diversity does seem to be a little bit of an issue. And you're right, like early game comps and mid game comps, like nobles, should be better.
Yeah, I just think so. Even going to the Hearthstone equivalent, like control is always good when they know exactly what they need to go up against. If control, like, if you take the rock paper scissors of like aggro, mid range, and control, aggro can like if you make a hyper aggressive aggro deck, you can sometimes beat those control decks by going under them or being super fast and killing them before they get online, right? Like you could theoretically kill it might not have been the case in that specific meta, but you could theoretically build a hyper aggressive hunter deck and kill them before they get their Shadow Priest online or something like that. And then mid-range will generally be able to beat aggro because they've got a lot of minion threats to be able to combat aggro. And then control beats mid-range because mid-range is not killing them fast enough and they have a lot of answers to their slower threats. And right now, to me, in TFT, and by right now, of course, I mean 9.19, it felt like control always wins because there's nothing where you can go underneath. There is no hyper aggressive. I mean, there's hyper rolling, but that's different. I also don't think that Knight,
Golden Knights,
the Golden Knights Vayne thing was actually that good. But like there's no like, okay, I see that people are going for Draven comp. I see that they're going for these Akali, these like big super late game like second like Elder Dragon like living to those stages comps. I can't be like, okay, I'm gonna go heavy, or maybe you can. I just haven't tested it enough or seen it happen. I'm perfectly willing to accept that because I haven't really tried it. It's like I can't go, okay, I'm gonna go this Evelyn Assassin's comp and counter that because I'm not doing enough damage to actually punish them for doing that. And even if I am beating them, they are still able to survive and get to that point. But it's kind of a moot point, I guess, because, at least specifically now because we're getting the new patch here. But it is a conversation I think worth having. And I don't know if I can specifically say that Void Assassin's meta was objectively better than this meta, but I do think that there are aspects of the Void Assassin's meta that I liked better than the current meta. I think that's where I can fall. And maybe Void Assassins itself was a problem.
I mean, Scarra called it degenerate, right? So it was a problem, but like, would you rather have the problem in a game be like a comp or like a core gameplay value? Right?
Definitely one comp because it's easier to balance that. And also if you think about it, there are 4 winning spots per game, not just one. If there's only one and Void Assassins got that every time, okay, I see the argument entirely of Void Assassins being awful because it's taking all of the LP, but it's theoretically only taking some amount. Like because like Void Assassins probably on average was like a top 3.5 comp. I don't know what the actual numbers were, but it's not like getting first every single time, no matter what, when you force it. That's just not how it panned out.
So. I see it, man. I see it. I'm kind of wallowing in my stance now too because you come up with some good points. It's just like on initial thought, like I look at it very surface level, right? I'm a very macro type of thinker.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely all about the big picture, and my big picture tells me that the games should be this long. Tempo is a little awkward, and early game comps should be a little stronger. There should be more of a give and take for going after an Akali. I mean, there's only 10 of them, right?
Right.
And so if you get an Akali too early, it should work out for you.
10. There's only 10 gold.
There's only 10 gold ones. I think there's 4, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Maybe 14. Anyway, the moral of the story is like if you're able to find them early on, you should be rewarded for that.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be potentially as consistent as it is because you're econing, because the games are going long, right? You're not punished for waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully they'll play around with that. And of course, set 2 is going to bring us a whole new bevy of concerns and new things to talk about. But we will certainly talk about that once we get that information. But we're going to, we are going to go into a quick break, and we will be back and talking about patch 9.20 when we return. If you want another way to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Little Legends Podcast and become a patron today. We've got all sorts of goals and tiers available, and we're open to suggestions as to what the other tiers should be. We'll be putting exclusive content. Videos, and other things on the Patreon, as well as giving you early looks at projects that we're working on. Head over to patreon.com/Little Legends Podcast right now. All right, guys, we are back after the break. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We are going to be talking about in patch 9.20, the most recent Teamfight Tactics Patch. And for better or for worse, I think for better, because we don't want this episode to be 3 hours like our last patch episode. A little bit condensed here, as Mort and team have said. We're nearing the end of set 1. There's going to be no substantive additions to the patch. Substantially manipulative. There's going to be nothing added to the game for set 1. It's just going to be adjustments, and they're going to be relatively minor adjustments. So we are take that into consideration when we talk about these patch notes. But without further ado, let's jump right into them. Teamfight Tactics Patch 9.20. Notes. They start off with their little intro here, and they say, "What's up, docs?" That was a little weird. As we approach the end of set 1, we want the last few patches to act as our stabilization period, so we'll be keeping the amount of changes pretty small. That being said, we'll continue to make some balance adjustments and follow up on items and systems, interesting, to prepare for set 2. And that is from Hana Shio Shujo. I don't know what the
Can we read?
Shujo. That looks correct. Woo. Hana Shio Shujo. Okay, that's definitely a little bit of a tongue twister, at least.
Am I offended?
Probably. Hana Shio Shujo. Woo. That's not easy to say. Is that easy to say? Is my brain too smooth to...
I think it is Shio Shoju.
It's not like hard to pronounce. It's just like Hana Shio Shoju Woo. I don't know.
Yeah, that is correct.
I think I got there.
Yep.
I'll edit out the other parts. I'm not going to edit them out. We're going to start here with the leveling changes. The experience to get to level 5 is being reduced from 12 experience down to 10, and the experience to get to level 9 is being reduced from 70 down to 66. So half of a button down at level 5 and a full button down at level 9. I guess technically, no, it's still, yeah, it's one full button press of the level up down at level 9. Boop, what are your initial thoughts on these EXP changes?
I think we were talking about tempo earlier, and then they're super small, so we'll see if that helps. And that's kind of like where it stops, right? Like, we won't know until we try, but going 70 from 66 feels good. Mm-hmm. 70 was just such an odd number. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't feel right, and so this feels a little bit better. I don't have a big brain. I don't have enough wrinkles in my brain to like get super detailed about this, but like, it feels good. Feels like a good change.
Yeah, I think, and we'll see this kind of reflected in the next change as well. They wanted to make the tier 5 units more accessible, and being able to get to level 9 one click earlier is definitely going to help. The biggest part here for me is actually the EXP to level 5 being reduced, which you think, oh, this just makes it better. I think it may have actually been this before, if I recall correctly. It was at 10 before. But what this most notably to me at least does is it removes one full round of it removes a full round that the hyper roll one cost unit comps were able to hold off and econ up to be able to roll down and get their tier 3 level 1. So, the old Void Assassins and the Golden Knights and the Golden Vein comp, they are now getting one round trimmed off of their econ before they have to. Well, they don't have to, but before they have that, they're maximizing their odds to get one costs in the rerolls. So a little bit of a nerf to the hyper roll one cost unit builds.
Well, that kind of hurts gunslingers then, right? Because when you run gunslingers, isn't pretty much always hyper roll?
I mean, traditionally, I think its best version was hyper roll, but there's other. I mean, technically, the 6 brawler comp was a gunslinger build too, with Jinx.
Jinx's guardian.
It technically had gunslingers in it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually the one game that I've won in the last week was a brawler comp with Jinx in it. So you're right.
It's I think undoubtedly S tier comp from 9.19. But yeah, it's just interesting. I think they wanted to make that. I mean, this also I guess makes it you get your more consistently your 2s and 3s a little bit earlier, which might help the mid game. I don't know. I agree with you. It's going to depend on the. We'll see how it actually plays out. But that was the biggest thing for me is that trimming one round off of that hyper roll's econ is going to be interesting. Boop, you want to go over the next one here?
The teardrop rates. My tears drop not that much. That's probably my best dad joke of today.
Well, it's certainly not a high bar, so.
My favorite, the tier list, happy tears, S tier. Okay, so level 8. Level 8, from 15, 25, 35, 25 to 15, 20. So, interesting. 35, 22, and 8. Man, they're like seriously like really starting to fine tune these numbers.
Yeah.
Level 9 goes from 10, 15, 33, 30, 12 to 10, 15, 30, 30, 15. Man, a 15% chance for a rank 5 unit. They're really pushing for these level 2 rank 5s. I guess Nico's help wasn't quite enough.
The level 2 rank 5s and just being able to find like your KL as your 6th piece or
to find the rank 5 that you specifically need.
Yeah, which makes me think we might be seeing some more 6-piece build around Exodia type late game comps in set 2 maybe. I mean, they don't have to follow the same leveling system as they did in set 1, but I would assume that they would. So, more of that like, it's a 6-piece bonus that needs or it's a set bonus that needs a rank a 5-star. So Imperials and Nobles.
It's interesting that rank 3s and 4s will appear at this the same amount when you hit level 9. So you can still find you're going to see less rank 3s, but the same amount of rank 4s. So getting those like rank 3 Vi's or rank 3 3 cost units like Kennen and stuff. It's going to be a tad bit harder to do. But your findings of 4 cost units will be better at level 8 and the same at level 9.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely interesting. Again, the dials are being adjusted ever so slightly. So these ones I think these ones are going to be hard to really feel the impact of. I think with the exception of the 5 cost units. I think we had someone in our Discord chat asking earlier what we thought about Nobles, and this patch it kind of seemed like they just weren't living up to what they should be, even if you get them. But maybe with this, if you can get the problem is that this doesn't really help. I mean, at level 8, it helps you get the Kale earlier. So if Nobles can get to a point where having nobles is actually good, where having a noble comp can actually win you a game or top 4 a game, which we're not necessarily at that point. But if it can get to that point, then getting level 8 is going to make you, almost twice as likely to find that Kale. I guess 60% more likely is the exact number.
I mean, that could speed up the game just a tad bit. By fighting those level 5s just a little bit faster, right? Like small percentages are something that League is like really started to get really into. So like in regular League, they'll like adjust someone's base attack damage by like 2, or like attack speed by like 0.1, right? So like they're really, again, like you said, fine tuning at this point.
Yeah, which I like. I think that they're able to. They can once they've kind of set in like, okay, this is pretty much how we want the environment to look. Let's just tweak some things and make some things a little bit better, some things a little bit worse, change some stuff up to give a little more counterplay. I think that's a really good place to be in, and this is really our first shot at that. This feels more like a B patch than a full patch, which I think is intended. But here's, I guess, where the real big changes, or at least the first bit of the big changes, start here. We're getting to the items. Deathblade, which was the combination of 2 BF swords, one every time you killed a unit or got an assist on a unit, you got a stack, which gives you 15 AD. It started with 0 stacks. Now it's going to start with 1 stack, which gives you plus 15 AD. Slight buff. I think Deathblade was definitely one of the new items that saw very little play.
IE was just too good.
IE is too good. Giant Slayer is too good. Guardian Angel is too good. And potentially being able to build 2 of those items I just listed, or 1 Deathblade, is in a lot of ways just a no-brainer.
Yeah, we thought last week that maybe like on Draven or someone, or like a cannon with like AoE damage could do something with it. I still don't think this plus 15 is going to be good enough.
No, it's not, because the problem is like it's diminishing returns. It's diminishing returns. Like it's like, oh well, my Draven can get like plus 75 AD. It's like.
But at that point, you were probably already winning that round.
Right. It's what we in the gaming, or the card strategy gaming world like to call a win more, which
I was just thinking that
you want to avoid in a lot of cases. If and for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a something that takes a position where you're already winning and helps you win more. Which, of course, I guess it technically could be somewhat useful, because it does. I guess if you win faster, that is a good thing, because you're doing more damage if a few of your units are dying. But for all intents and purposes, it's not worth the resources that you're investing into it. 2 BF swords is just. It's hard enough to get 2 BF swords, so I'm sure that this item was just not built very often anyway. But it's not even like. I'm thinking I would probably rather have a Hextech Gunblade than this. It's probably like the 5th or 6th best sword item. Bloodthirster I'd rather have. It might actually be the worst sword item now that I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to think of what. Like,
well, you have to put 2 BF swords in it.
Right.
Right? Like that's an item that, like, in theory, like, sounds really cool. Right? Mm-hmm. But it didn't really work out.
Yeah. The win more just does not good. The next one up here is one of the banes of 9.19. That is the Frozen Heart's slow duration has been reduced from 4 seconds down to 1 second. So one of the problems with it is not getting addressed. It just slows your attacks down when there's someone with 3 Frozen Hearts on. It just slows everyone who's around them down a lot. But it does address I'm going to put this on Vi or any assassin, and as they jump over my team, there's just going to be 4 seconds of Frozen Heart at the beginning of every single game that I can't interact with or do anything about. My attack speed's just done. So that's going to be at least reduced by quite a bit here with the 1 second duration. But I think its core power is still there.
it's all about like now it makes more sense that the person needs to be next to the person, or because in the game in League of Legends it slows the attack speed of anyone attacking that person,
Okay.
and so like it's a little bit more thematically appropriate as well. Yeah, because like that was one of those things where it's like, why does this stay? Like, why does this stay on?
Right.
They're like they like just briefly passed, right? It's like
Yeah, while
sometimes
I'm
when I trip
invisible.
over my feet, like I stay on the ground, like Peter Griffin in that Family Guy bit, right?
Yeah.
And other times I get right back up, right? It's like it doesn't make sense for it to always work like that. And then they buffed it so many times in a row that eventually it just became a little too overwhelming and anti-fun for sure, because like then attack speed comps just were not that great.
Yeah, Anivia's ult, before it ended up doing a ton of damage, but Anivia's ult just always felt super bad. When it's like, oh, well, my Draven just doesn't attack anymore, and Frozen Heart on an Assassin just made that essentially the beginning of every round was the entire board is Anivia is Anivia ulted, and then you start the match when you're not Anivia ulted. So really, really led to some very strong early assassin starts, and I think that it's still going to be a strong item, which is fine. Like, you want to have strong items, but it's not going to be the like, well, you get 2 Frozen Hearts, I guess the game's over.
Well, it kind of reminded me of like when Ionic Spark did 200 damage,
Yeah.
Shiv did 200 damage, right? Just for free. Right? You don't want things to be gimmicky like that, right? And Frozen Heart was a little bit closer to that than what it needed to be.
Absolutely. Speaking of things that ended the game quickly and were stronger than they needed to be, Infinity Edge has gone from 150% crit damage down to 125% crit damage. This is another instance where I need wrinkled brains and charts of damage to show me how much of a difference this is making. I saw on one of Mort's streams that this is something that he showed a little bit on Akali. And the 150 to 125 is certainly something that you want. It's so frustrating when you have like a tanky unit or even a not super tanky unit, but like, oh, they hit 1 crit. Guess I'm dead now. They
Oh, and
one-shot me.
it's also Akali. So not only do her auto attacks crit me,
Right.
so does her spell.
Yeah, and
I'm
assassin
dead.
buff gives you more. Yeah, it's everything just compounded, and this is part of the stemming of the bleeding, I suppose.
It's not like a drastic change, but it should help.
Yeah, the cool thing about both of these changes for Frozen Heart and Infinity Edge is I think that these 2 items are going from S plus double plus broken please nerf tier to just very good.
It could still be S tier. I
Still
think
could
IE
be
could
S
still
tier.
be S tier for
Yeah,
sure.
I think Frozen Heart might still be too. There's not many good things to build a tier out of, and like there's Guardian Angel, which requires a sword, which is built in the cool thing about those 2 items is that they synergize well with like like when you're given those components, those are the 2 items you're probably going to want to build. It's not like they're overlapping and preventing you from doing things. So
I think this next one is actually kind of a big deal, the Quicksilver change.
yeah, Quicksilver's cooldown going from a 5-second cooldown to 3 seconds, and that of course is I believe Quicksilver is the one that prevents CC
A spell, yeah.
or is it any spell?
Let's
For some
make
reason,
sure.
yeah, my guess, what I'm putting my money on is that Trap Claw is the one that prevents any spell and stuns them. Quicksilver,
Yep, you are correct.
just prevents CC, but
that
refreshes.
prevents the next crowd control effect. And so, what was interesting about that is I don't think they expected or like assumed that a lot of characters would develop ultimates within 5 seconds anyway. Right, so you would only get like 1 use out of it.
Right.
Now with a 3-second cooldown, you might be able to like CC, like not CC or cleanse your CC way more often to make some certain carries that might have been a little too weak or flimsy a little bit better. Yep. So we shall see. But I actually like the change. I'm going to try it out for sure because a 2-second difference, 3 seconds is like not a long time.
Right.
And so I think it's going to be. I think that's a good change for that item.
Really good change. I think in 9.19, it was just the only reason I'm making Quicksilver over Trapclaw is that I'm stuck with the components for Quicksilver instead of the components for Trapclaw. I'm never choosing to build Quicksilver over Trapclaw, and now I might. I think
I think it'd be good.
Yeah, getting multiple uses out of it, especially on a carry, is going to be super powerful because one CC can certainly ruin your round. Being able to stop possibly two can be very, very strong. So we'll see. We'll see how that one pans out compared to its obvious sort of sibling of Trapclaw. And the last item change here is Thieves' Gloves, and they lowered the average quality of item combinations. I will post, Mort actually posted a good chart of what those item combinations are now. I'll put those in the description as well. But in overall, the Thieves' Gloves item combos are just a little bit worse than they were before. And I mean, I never thought, like, I felt like Thieves' Gloves was fine. Like it was an all right item to build, but I always felt bad building it because it's like
you want your IE
building IE.
Yep. Rather than maybe getting an IE. I mean, when I built Thieves' Gloves, I remember I built it on Vayne once, and for like 4 rounds in a row, I got like, one time I got a Rabadons and a large rod, and then things that just like didn't matter. And I like that about Thieves' Gloves. It has to have a little bit of give and take, right? But sometimes though, like I would get like a double Shojin's or something, or like a Shojin's Gunblade on a Darius, and that was like unbeatable. So maybe they're just trying to make that happen less often. But I think it's still a fun item. I don't think that item should ever be good, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That it seems very memey in general. So I think this is a good change overall. Because if like a random item thing was good, then the argument for this is all just RNG would have a lot more weight to it.
Yeah, I think they probably looked at it as like, on average, you're getting a item strength of this value. And they wanted that lower, which I like, just in general. Although it didn't feel to me like Thieves' Gloves was super powerful. Like I was never, I mean, only in very specific instances was I like, oh, holy crap, they got 2 Bloodthirsters or something, and I'd just lose. But it felt like on average I was fine with it as an item, but this is going to make me even more fine with it as an item, I guess. So let's move on here, Boop, and let's talk about some traits.
Let's talk about some traits. My mouse is not working. Okay, here we go. Traits. Assassin. 3 Assassin is going to go from 75% crit damage and 10% crit chance to 75% crit damage and 5% crit chance. So very small 5% crit chance decrease.
I mean, that's a 50% decrease.
It is a 50%, but 10. I think that is like along with the Infinity Edge nerf, like they're really going after it. Guardian armor bonus is going to go from 35 to 45. There is a sneaky little Guardian build with Varus going. That's kind of popular right now. That's probably going to be real popular in the next patch. Gunslinger going to go from 1, 2, 3 extra shots to 1, 2, 4. So the full 6 is the only thing that's getting changed. Knight is going to be 15, 35, 65 to 15, 35, 60. That seems kind of negligible. And then Wild is going from 12% attack speed to 10% attack speed, and that seems to be a good nerf because like characters like Gnar and stuff are still too strong.
Still very strong. Wild itself was just like, I feel like they wanted it to be like the 4-piece bonus is going to give you some benefit to your team, but also as a counter to something like Yordles or just dodge in general. But it was more like Wild bonus, regardless of the attack dodge, is very good. And the attack dodge is gravy and also now just nullifies the dodge builds at all, because it's so good to just run in and of itself, regardless of whether you're actually trying to counter dodge. This is still probably good. Again, I mean, it's a sizable, in the long run, it's still going to be sizable. And a lot of times those Wild builds go into the later, into overtime. And that's when you're really going to see the full power of the Wild bonus. But Yeah, I mean, all of these things needed, all the nerfed class or traits here needed to be touched in some capacity, and they're all very small. Guardian
Definitely.
bonus. Ooh, that can be big because that's a extra 10 armor is pretty sizable. They nerf 6 knights, which is fine. Because 6 knights is one of the easier. It's one of the easier 6-piece bonuses to get. Because 3 of those knights are 1 cost units, and also you can make a spatula item to make another knight. So I'm fine with them getting rid of the 6 bonus. It just seemed like, well, you got 6 knights. I guess I'm not killing you.
Yeah, counterplay is important, man.
Mm-hmm. And at least like with the Guardian buff, it's like, now, do you want to run Knights or Guardians? Though some of the rumblings I've seen is the answer to that question is both. But we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, next week if that runs rampant. But let's move on here to the last part of the patch, and that is going to be champion changes. Run through these quickly. Aatrox getting an armor buff from 25 up to 35. Akali's attack speed getting a slight nerf from 0.85 down to 0.80. Fiora getting an HP buff from 400 to 450. Gangplank getting a 5 AD buff from 55 to 60. Kai'Sa's spell attack speed bonus is going from 30%, 60%, 90% to 50%, 75%, 100%. That seems like a pretty big buff to Kai'Sa 1, which is cool. And also her shield is getting buffed from 300, 600, 900 shield to 400, 700, 1K. So from what I hear, Sean Connery's pick for a Bond girl from TFT getting a bit of a buff here. I don't know. I didn't hear that podcast. I just heard rumors of it on the rumor mill. Leona getting an HP buff of 50 from 750 to 800. Again, going in that Guardian overall buff. Lucian spell, I'm assuming damage here, going from 100, 225, 350 to 125, 250, 375. Lucian getting a buff? Really? I guess that goes in with the gunslingers. Poppy getting an HP nerf from 800 to 700. And Volibear getting that slight attack speed buff from 0.6 to 0.65.
Oh, speaking of Volibear, I did something super funny the other day. I got third, but it was totally worth it. It was double Titanic Hydra Warmogs. And so the Hydra actually procs on everyone that he chain lightnings.
Oh,
yeah.
So
I mean, it
like...
still sucked. Yeah, it still
really?
sucked, but it was hilarious. So if you want like some lulz build a, no, it wasn't. I mean, it's just the Hydra like extra damage just like isn't that great. But yeah, so like the
that
Warmogs
feels like
double Hydra.
that's the Exodia build of it. Like that feels like that should be.
Well,
it.
he used to be. I think he used to be tankier, right? And I even had 4 brawlers up, so
yeah.
Maybe it was my positioning, and he would just get bursted down before he could get a lot of procs off too. And so, like, I think if I had Volibear 3, it might have worked, but it was still pretty cool. Something to try. Also, when I look at this, I see a lot of nobles on this list, so we'll see if that's going to help out nobles in the late game.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, I love Volibear carry is one of my favorite just builds in general. Obviously, Josh OG won the first Twitch Rivals on the back of the Volley carry. Kai'Sa getting a buff, I think much needed. I think the impression of Kai'Sa and her performance in her first patch was not stellar, so a buff was in order. Glad to see it. Hopefully we're not overlooking this like we did with Pantheon, and hopefully we're not making a horrible mistake. But I mean, they can always revert it. But I like Kai'Sa being strong. Gangplank getting damage. I mean, this is like all these like old champs that were good like 2 or 3 patches ago are getting or maybe getting some time in the sun again. Bring me back Volley carry. Those are the good old days. Give me Demon Bear,
good old Demon Bear,
Ass Bear, Hush Bear. And on that note. Overall, I mean, it like I said, does feel almost like a B patch compared
Yeah,
to
the
regular
biggest change
patch.
I think is definitely to Kaisa in terms of like actual characters.
Yeah, and the item changes are pretty big too.
Yeah, especially like the IE with the assassin nerf will be pretty big.
Yeah.
Guardian buff is all right. Again, our most used term I think is we'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see. But yeah, I don't expect a lot to change. Hopefully, we'll see more Rangers and Gunslingers and a little bit more diversity near the end game. They're obviously trying to help nobles out just a little bit too. Same thing with like Lucian being a noble and a gunslinger, and so we'll figure it out tomorrow. But for the time being, it seems almost negligible since Kaisa is a rank 5 unit,
Right.
and I'm talking just like champions here.
Right.
Aatrox should be able to ult more, but we're not seeing a ton of Blade Masters. We might not see Blade Masters again. It's
They're just trying to give some of these champs a shot before set 2 comes out.
exactly. Just to like kind of like Morgana's armor buff, so she can finish her ult. It's the same thing that they're trying to do with Aatrox and Leona.
Aatrox, get it right.
Okay.
But that's going to be it for patch 9.20 here, folks. We're going to go into the end game here for the show, and that, of course, is where we like to talk about some of the builds that you guys have submitted for that you guys have gotten first places in. So if you go to discord.me/LittleLegendsPodcast, you can post screenshots of your winning builds, and I want to say that we'll get to all of them, but there were a bunch that we couldn't get to because we're getting so many submissions, which I'm flattered, and I love seeing them on here, but we just unfortunately can't get to them all. So
I
post your
wish
best
more
ones.
of them were mine. But that is not the case.
There's only one of them that's mine, and you'll see why it's mine when we go over it. But let's go in here. We're going to start off with Kamer the Gamer, who actually was in the chat earlier here, might still be around. This one notable here. 4 Imperials with a tier 3 Katarina. That's just that. Come on, dude.
It's a yikers for them.
And just a a Gnar for good measure. No other synergies. Just Gnar. Right? There's no wild. There's no shapeshifter. There's only
just put it on Gnar.
Just put it on Gnar and put Gnar in. A good win there. Sure, we'll talk about mine. This was actually from game night, so take it for what it's worth. But I will say, in second place in this game, Sphinxy Boy, top ranked challenger player, and I was the one that came out on top here with just a standard.
Yeah,
Shapeshifter.
With a couple rank 3s, right?
Yeah, I had a rank 3 Vi, which is it's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Rank 3 Shyvana, which is very good.
Yeah.
And a rank 3 Akali. But we don't,
that's dog poop, man. You don't need to talk about the rank 3 Akali.
That's Gnar poop.
It was pretty much not a non-factor.
Yeah, and a level 1 Gnar, just for good measure.
That was a 5th in this game.
Yeah, that was yeah. You did get 5th.
What was I running?
You were running.
I don't know what that was.
You were trying to run.
I think I was trying to run what you were running. Yeah,
you're trying to run what I was running, but no one ran quite as hot as I did with the Akalis. Everyone was like
the whole night, actually. The whole night you were doing that. It was pretty crazy.
It's true, and then I couldn't ever find them in real games, but it was worth it. I'd rather win at game night than in ranked games. Definitely more important. But definitely a fun one there. Next one here we've got from Angry Frog. Tier 3 Aatrox, Tier 3 Vi, a Misfortune, a Yasuo. I mean, that's a lot of gold right there. Tier 2 Yasuo, Tier 2 Misfortune, Tier 2 Akali, Tier 2 Draven. And we got some Blade Masters. Looks like there's a couple Gunslingers here with a Gangplank as well. Blade Master Gunslingers. Maybe we see a
Hex Tech.
We see a little bit of Hex Tech here as well. Hex Tech with the...
Camille and Vi.
Possibly, I can't tell the itemization here, but maybe a Blade Master Misfortune, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I bet either Akali or Misfortune is probably made into a Blade Master here, because that would be 6 Blade Masters, which would be really sweet comp to pull off. But really cool one there from Angry Frog. Got another one here from CTK797. Another good old-fashioned Knights Imperials comp. Very standard S-tier comp here, taking it home. We got Wax Burrito with a Tier 3 Gnar. Wild Assassins with a Tier 3 Gnar.
I don't think I've ever seen a Tier 3 Gnar personally.
I mean, I know I've seen it in some Osto videos, and I think I may have actually gotten a Tier 3 Gnar before too. But, hashtag always lucky.
Hashtag why aren't you Challenger?
Because I'm actually not that good. You can have all the luck in the world. If you squander it, it doesn't matter. And last one here is actually from Sphinxy Boy on his alt account here. He's got level 2 Kaisa before the buff, so really rocking it. Looks like we got some Rangers. We got Kindred Kaisa, Knights, a couple of Blade Masters here. I would imagine maybe the Kaisa was turned into a Blade Master. That'd be 3 Blade Masters, 4 Knights, and 2 Rangers. So I know Sphinx was actually kind of not like super high on Rangers, but like I saw him running Rangers a decent amount and to decent success. Although, of course, those may have also been the games that he lost his 300 LP on. So who knows? We will have to wait and see. But guys, it's the end of the episode. Thank you everyone for listening. Boop, any parting words before we get into the outro here?
Hopefully I can gain some LP, dude. I don't know how to play the game anymore.
Okay,
I just got to get out of my head.
New game, 9.20, new game.
Yeah. This most recent patch like really got to me. I had like a good like couple weeks where I was like killing it. I was in Plat 2. I was on my way, and then I just like stopped doing well. I just kept forcing Rangers because I love playing Rangers. I love playing Brawlers, but why am I not playing Brawlers? Because they're better right now. I don't know.
Got to get out of that hipster comp. Just be
that's
a degenerate.
What it is. That totally
be a
that's
degenerate.
Totally what it is. I am a hipster, I guess you could say. But yeah, hopefully that's going to be it for next week. And if you want to find me on Twitter, it's at Booposaurus Rex. And make sure everyone to watch Fight Night with Deathblow and Blevins. That'll be a good one. I'll definitely be in the chat hanging out on some of those streams, and we can mess with them on the stream. And that gluten-free copy pasta needs to be aplenty.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to want to check that out. Despite me being the caster, one of the casters there, because that is going to be the first high-level tournament we have in this new patch. So certainly going to be a very exciting one for sure. But that is going to be it, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. You can find me on Twitter at @the_Blevins. Make sure that you are following the podcast as well on Twitter at LIL Legends Pod. I wish I could have just gotten Little Legends Podcast. That's too many characters. But you can find all of the links to everywhere that the show is in the Discord, discord.me/Little Legends Podcast. Even if you want to just lurk and see what's going on, you don't have to talk if you don't want to. It's not a problem. Just come on in. Come on in and have some fun. Join a game night, post your comp, all that good stuff. That's going to be great. If you guys do want some even more exclusive content and some future content that we haven't announced yet and that we're working on, be sure to hit us up on patreon.com/Little Legends Podcast. We are doing an interview series right now that is exclusive to Patreon that I think you guys are going to like.
Celebrities aplenty, guys.
Yes.
We've gotten some big stars to come on. And I've gotten the lucky opportunity to interview a couple of them only here in TFT. Thank you, Blev, for really taking a step back and letting me take those interviews. It's really big of you.
You're the master interviewer here, so I just, you know what, let the master do their work. But those are unlocked at any patron level, so definitely check that out. And make sure, guys, iTunes reviews on the prediction feed. Search for Prediction, PREEDICTION on iTunes or Spotify. Check it out and leave a review and all that good stuff. But that is going to be it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Next week is going to be a big one with the 10-year event. Depending on when it is, I might do like a simulcast live stream. I don't know. It's going to be fun, though. We'll see you guys there, and we'll talk about it all next week on the Little Legends podcast. Bye, everybody. Yeah. I don't know why I'm making up outro music. We have our own.